right friend. And now the Magpies, he better kick it in a hurry, he fires for the goals. And what's the result? Oh, put it through, what a magnificent goal. Over to Pick, and his umpire call players are going for Cass to snap for goal. It looks dangerous. Towards Bridus and Max Richardson. Beautiful mark to Bridus, a lovely mark.
Short pop pass to Ross Bender, who's off and running on that left centre wing. He goes in short with a brilliant pass to
Footy. For half the year we live, breathe, eat and sleep it. And for the other 6 months we argue about last season and think about next. What is it about Australian football that attracts such a devoted following, that makes it one of the most enthralling field sports in the world? It's fast, it's exciting, it's non-stop, it's high-scoring, it's a team sport which still allows brilliant individual effort. But above all, it's our sport, uniquely Australian, the only sport to have been conceived, born and raised in this country and no other. For the tens of thousands of players at all levels who strive in all conditions for the success of their sides, and for the millions of fans who give their passionate support through triumph and disaster to their chosen teams, football is not just a game, it is the game. The founders of Australian football did their job well, but it's probable that even they would be surprised at the position the game holds today. After all, it was conceived by Thomas Wentworth Wills only as a pastime for cricketers to keep fit in the winter. Although various disorganised forms of football had appeared amongst gold miners in the 1840s and 50s, Wills, his cousin H.C.A. Harrison, W.T. Hammersley and J.B. Thompson, who helped draw up the first rules of the game, based their ideas on what was probably the first recognisable competitive match in 1858. It was between sides representing Scotch College and Melbourne Grammar. There were 40 players a side, but the ground was not too congested because the goalposts were over a quarter of a mile apart and there were no defined boundaries. It was agreed that the first side to score 2 goals would win the match. By today's high-scoring standards, that may seem a simple task. But though the game raged on from noon to dusk on 3 Saturdays, the single goal scored by Scotch 3 hours into the first day remained the only score, and the match was finally abandoned as a draw. However, the formation of several football clubs over the next few years showed that the game had caught on, and the first generally accepted set of laws was drawn up in 1866. At this time, what was known as Victorian football began to be played in Sydney and Adelaide. As the popularity of the game grew, with the Melbourne Match of the Day by the middle 1880s attracting up to 15,000 spectators, so the rules were progressively modified to improve and speed up play. Administration became more complex as the sport grew, and in 1905, a meeting attended by representatives of all states and New Zealand decided to form the Australasian Football Council to control the sport. The council, through several name changes, continued to preside over developments. Today, it is known as the National Football League of Australia. Its basic functions are to promote, foster and control Australian football, to maintain uniformity between the states as regards laws of the game and interstate clearance regulations, and to conduct national championships and other competitions. The NFL consists of 1 representative from each affiliated body, of which there are 8. The Amateur Football Council, the Australian Capital Territory League, and the leagues of each of the 6 states. One of the most important activities of the NFL, through its National Coaching Committee, is to undertake programs to improve the standard of play at all the many ages and levels at which football is played. Training is becoming more and more scientific, as fitness and technique are more fully understood. Footballers today need a great deal more than just talent to become league stars. The factors which are necessary for success are the 5 S's: strength, suppleness, stamina, speed, and skill. Strength and suppleness are built through carefully planned gymnasium exercises. Some of the gym work also helps basic stamina, but nothing takes the place of road work for endurance. The running program also includes speed work. This part of the preparation includes work aimed at improving agility and acceleration. Suppleness is improved by bending and stretching movements designed to exercise mainly the major leg and back muscles. In this film, we're mainly concerned with the basic skills of football. For this, we brought together a group of outstanding players from 3 states. Barry Cable, North Melbourne 1977 premiers and triple Sandover medalist. Russell Ebert, captain of Port Adelaide and triple Magarey medalist. Phil Gallagher, Norwood and South Australian state player. Peter Knights, Hawthorn and Victorian state player. Graham Moss, Claremont and West Australian state captain and Brownlow medalist. And Kevin Sheedy, Richmond captain and Victorian state player. The technique of Australian football may be divided into offensive skills and defensive skills. Both are important, but the offensive skills win matches. The most successful teams are those which are able to gain possession of the ball, maintain possession and dispose of it most efficiently and rapidly. But remember, possession wins matches. There are many ways of gaining possession. One of the unique features of Australian football, and one of the most spectacular, is the mark. A screamer plucked from the air in front of goal can bring the crowd to its feet in excitement. But not all marks are like that. Simplest of all is the chest mark, the proverbial sitter. As anyone who's ever dropped one will know, there's a right way to do it, even for a champion. Let's see how Kevin Sheedy goes about accepting a straightforward body mark. Notice how Kevin doesn't wait for the ball to come to him, but goes out to meet it. He positions himself on a direct line with the flight of the ball, not across it. Although he is aware of where his opponents are, his eyes are fixed on the ball and will remain so until the mark is taken. Just before meeting the ball, the hands are open, with palms up and fingers spread. The elbows are close into the body. As the player meets the ball, the forearms and hands wrap around it, guiding it into the body. The body forms a natural cradle by bending slightly at the waist and wrapping the arms and shoulders round the ball. The chest mark is not only the simplest mark, it's also the safest, especially in the wet. But there's something more we can learn here. Watch this. Notice how Kevin, after taking the ball, doesn't just stand there. He automatically adopts what we'll call the dispatch position. In this position, he's perfectly balanced and ready to play on should the opportunity present itself. Notice the perfect balance. Ball in both hands, close to the body, ready to dispose to right or left. This dispatch position is very important in the fast play-on style of football so successful today. The chest mark should be used wherever possible, except where it would increase the risk of an opponent being able to spoil. In a high chest mark, Russell Ebert demonstrates how one knee is lifted, giving support and protection and helping the player to maintain balance. With a low mark, he gets the body in line and down. The hands are cupped and dropped low under the ball. The ball is held tightly to the chest, shoulders hunched, to avoid spilling the mark. As a player develops his marking skill and confidence, he's able to take the ball further away from his body. This has the advantage of meeting the ball at the earliest possible moment in its flight. Let's look at 3 different hand marks. The high mark, the low ball in front, and marking at the side. Here's a high mark demonstrated by Peter Knights.
Keep your eyes on the ball from the moment it is kicked. Get into a position to meet the ball as early as possible while at the same time outmanoeuvring your opponent. Coordinate your arm and knee movement to give up thrust. The knee will also assist you in maintaining balance and give protection. Ideally, the ball should be taken at full arm's length, with the arms parallel and slightly forward of the head. Fingers should be well spread and thumbs cocked behind the line of flight. Both hands should meet the ball at the same time, with the fingers closing firmly around the ball.
Notice how when marking in front of the opponent, the ball is pulled quickly downwards in front of the body, whereas in a mark from behind, the player pulls the ball backwards out of harm's way. Now, Russell shows how to take a low ball in front of the body. See how the fingers are pointed down. And here's a mark to the side. Note Kevin's determination, both hands on the ball and gripping it with the fingers. When a mark is hotly contested, as often as not the ball is spilled. This is when the alert player is frequently able to gain possession off hands. This is an important aspect of the offensive skills. Whether from the unpredictable off hands or the more predictable palm or punch from ruck play, the principles are the same: concentration, anticipation, and acceleration. Concentration means watching the ball closely all the time. Anticipation means reading the play, and acceleration comes from absolute readiness. If you're perfectly balanced, you can turn in any direction and accelerate away, leaving your opponents floundering. We've seen two of the ways in which a player can gain possession of the ball: marking and off hands. Equally important is the ability to gain possession of the loose ball. Watch how Russell takes the ball bouncing towards him. He moves on the line, eyes on the ball, gathering it in the surest possible way. Two hands on the ball, ready for reflex disposal. The ball rarely bounces the same way twice, so the player must be ready to take it at any height. Here again, watching the ball very closely is essential. If possible, to minimize the effect of the unexpected bounce, the good footballer does what the good cricketer does with spin bowling. He takes it low down on the half volley to smother the break.
Shows pace to get around his opponent.
Collingwood, very scrambly football, diving in all directions, taken by Barham. Indiscriminate handle taken by Byrne for North Melbourne. Knee break clear, Hamilton turn goes towards the centre of the ground.
Here, Barry Cable gathers a ball bouncing away from him. The principles of positioning and gathering are the same, and similar to those for the chest mark. Move to meet the ball along the line of the bounce. Watch the ball closely. Fingers spread, palms facing the ball, body bent at the waist, allowing the ball to be drawn into a natural cradle. Immediately into a position ready for reflex disposal. The ball on the ground presents a different sort of problem. It looks easy, but needs fitness, flexibility, and lots of practice. Two hands are safest, but the player has to slow down slightly. The fingers are spread, the hands well down to and behind the ball, which is scooped rather than snatched up. Where the ball is stationary, the one-handed pickup is the choice. The player approaches the ball slightly to the side. With cupped hand, the ball is scooped up in one smooth action. The pickup is near the back foot, the head over the ball. As the ball comes up, the free hand is brought across to make a firm two-handed grip. This is a skill which can be practiced alone until the player becomes proficient at scooping up with either hand. Just as important as gaining possession are the skills of maintaining possession. These include evasion of various types, bouncing on the run, and shepherding. There are few more exhilarating sights in Australian football than a nimble rover eluding one opponent after another by swerving, sidestepping, turning and feinting. Phil Gallagher is one of the most elusive players in football today.
Most evasive movements are instinctive. The key is to maintain balance, be aware of your opponent and deceive him. To do this, you must have confidence and practice the skills at training. Also, be able to turn either side to take advantage of all situations.
Here, he evades two opponents. There are three factors in each evasion: balance, knowing where the opponent is, and deception. An evasive action is useless if an opponent knows it's coming. Let's have a look at some evasive moves. First, swerving to avoid a pursuing opponent. This is a top-speed maneuver. A sidestep with the opponent approaching from the front, a sudden prop and off in a new direction. A feint and spin turn. As Graham Moss approaches, the ball is thrust to one side. He goes for it, Phil spins away. A back or blind turn. Barry feints with the ball, turns and sets off in a new direction, leaving his opponent stranded. When caught in possession with no chance to dispose of the ball, warding off can be a useful tactic. This must be done with the palm of the hand, not the closed fist. Another skill important to maintaining possession of the ball is bouncing, well demonstrated here in this unforgettable goal.
Goes for a run, almost towards the half-forward line. He is now. He's run 50 metres. Goes the handball, no pains the handball. He won't give in Manasseh. He's going to shoot for goal, and he's put it through. He's put it through. By golly, what an individual effort. That's going to be the goal of the century. A magnificent goal put up Manasseh. He picked up the ball on the half-back line, and he's put it through, and the Magpies are still in with a chance.
The important thing in bouncing is that the ball is not dropped or thrown, but guided to the ground. The guiding hand remains on the ball longer than the other, propelling it to hit the ground at an angle of about 45 degrees. The faster the player is running, the further ahead the ball is bounced. In wet weather, the ball is not bounced, but touched to the ground for obvious reasons. The last of the skills necessary for maintaining possession for your team is shepherding. Here's a situation in which a player is shielding a teammate from an opponent running towards him. Notice how the shepherding player does not stand still, but runs in with him, keeping himself between the opponent and the teammate. Kevin shows how to shepherd. He dodges with Graham, but doesn't actually try to stop him. In a congested situation, the feet are firmly planted, the arms and body form a firm, wide barrier. Strength is essential here, but remember the 5-metre rule. The third group of offensive skills are those of disposal of the ball. Efficient and rapid disposal is one of the main attributes of successful teams today. Players need to master the skills of kicking and handball to the point where the technique is automatic, allowing accurate disposal by instant reflex action.
And he's put it through.
The most commonly used kick today is the punt kick. Using a drop punt, Kevin shows us the technique of a champion renowned for his long and accurate kicking.
You've got to start off by getting your grip right. Both hands lightly but firmly on the ball, with the thumbs near the lacing and the middle fingers along the seams. You must feel comfortable and relaxed before you start. If you're tense or off balance, you'll kick the ball offline or mistime it. Line yourself up with the target and make sure you approach along the line, still relaxed and balanced. When you release the ball, you don't just drop it, you guide it down onto the boot. Watch your foot kick through the ball, not just at it, and follow through along the line to the target. We use the drop punt a lot nowadays, especially in the wet.
Let's look again at the basic essentials which apply to any kick. First, an easy, balanced run-in with not too much movement of the arms. Head and shoulders square to the target. The ball is not just dropped onto the boot, but guided to the point of contact. Notice how one hand remains on the ball and keeps control of it to the last possible instant. The other arm is held out wide for balance. The leg action is full and fluent. At the instant of contact, the kicking leg has nearly straightened, and the instep is taut and strong. The body at this point leans back slightly from the vertical for balance and power. The swing of the leg is straight towards the target. The eyes remain fixed on the ball. The follow-through is high and straight towards the target. The upper body leans forward immediately after impact. The torpedo punt, executed here by Peter Knights, differs in 3 details from the drop punt. One is the grip. For a right foot kick, the ball is held with the left hand more towards the front of the ball, the right hand drawn back, so that the ball is at an angle of about 15 degrees to the line. Another is in the angle of the release. Whereas in the drop punt, the ball is released with its long axis almost vertical, with the torpedo punt, it is released at an angle of only about 15 degrees from the horizontal. A further difference is at contact. The ball is met higher, about knee-high, and is angled slightly across the line. The lower part of the taut extended instep meets the ball, imparting the spiraling rotation which makes the torpedo punt an effective kick for covering distance, especially against the wind. The drop kick, although not used so much today as in past years, remains a valuable method of disposal in dry conditions and an essential skill.
Because of its spinning action, the drop kick flies straight and is the easiest kick to mark. The grip is the conventional one as used for the drop punt. The approach is easy, straight and balanced. with no side-to-side movement of the ball. The ball is released in the usual controlled way, but strikes the ground just in advance of the non-kicking foot at an angle of about 45 degrees to the ground. Timing is very important here. The foot must strike the ball almost at the instant the ball hits the ground. Contact is made with the lower part of the instep, which is kept very taut.
The follow-through is straight and powerful, though not as long as with the other types of kick. All top players agree that in any kick, it is important not to try to kick too hard. Correct technique and timing will give distance as well as accuracy. The second legitimate way of disposing of the ball is by handball. This used to be regarded as more of a defensive skill to get out of trouble. It is now recognized and used as one of the best methods of attacking and penetrating a defense. Today's champion teams practice handball intensively, becoming equally good on either side. Our champions now demonstrate the technique of handball. Direct to a teammate, over the head of an opponent, and to space. The ball should be gripped by the fingers, not balanced on the palm. The wrist can be bent so that the ball is held close to the forearm. The punching hand with the thumb outside the fingers. The fist meets the ball just below the point where the seams meet. Notice that this is the one ball handling skill where the player watches the target, not the ball. Barry has as his target Graham's waistline, not his chest, so as not to interfere with visibility and balance.
His brother certainly is putting his point over.
Well, Big Len gets the tap down again and turned by
The ruck is like a team within a team. There must be a good understanding between knock ruckman, follower and rover.
Good ruck work springs from planning, thinking and talking. The knock ruckman should study the umpire's bounce to work out a run-in for perfect timing. For me, palming is the most accurate method of disposal, and to do this effectively, you must make front position. A ruckman and his rover must have a good understanding to work together to get the ball away.
Palming is the more accurate method for a ruckman to feed his rover. Punching is used less often, but it has its place in a ruckman's skills. Good cooperation in the ruck gives a team a head start over the opposition. So far, we've dealt with the offensive skills. Now we look at those used in defense. Counters to gaining possession, counters to maintaining possession, and counters to disposal. To attempt to prevent an opponent gaining possession, a player can use spoiling, bumping, and pushing. Russell Ebert demonstrates the spoil. Peter is better placed to take the mark. Taking care not to push or interfere with him from behind, Russell punches the ball clear. Timing is all important. Arm fully extended at the moment of contact. Eyes on the ball, not the opponent. Punch along the line of flight of the ball, not across it. Bumping is used to throw the opponent off balance. See how the elbow is kept tucked into the side. The arm and shoulder are tensed and firm. Top players use bumping always with the object of gaining possession of the ball, never to inflict injury. Unnecessarily forceful body contact is not good football and can be a reportable offence. The same applies to pushing. The push is always to the player's chest or side, never the back or head, with the open hand for obvious reasons. Once an opponent is in possession of the ball, there are three counters to maintaining possession. Tackling, propping on his line of movement, and standing the mark. The twin objectives of the tackle are to cause an uncontrolled disposal of the ball and to be well placed yourself to regain possession of the ball. Remember that a legal tackle is between the knee and the shoulder. The tackler watches the opponent's hips. This gives better warning of changes of direction than watching the ball. In tackling from the front, the player lowers and angles his shoulders towards the opponent's midsection. While in a tackle from the side, the player makes sure his body is in front of the opponent's to avoid the illegal push in the back. When a player is over the ball on the ground, he is, under the laws, in possession and may be pulled away. When propping on an opponent's movement, Russell waits in a poised, balanced position. He watches the opponent's hips, giving him warning of a change of direction. Standing the mark looks a simple enough skill. But again, there are certain points to remember. Notice here how the man on the mark takes up his position as quickly as possible on the spot designated by the umpire. Even before the opponent begins his approach, the player watches the ball closely and moves his raised arms about to distract the opponent and possibly block a low kick.
And it's a goal to Collingwood, a badly needed one.
Counters to disposal of the ball include blocking off the boot and stealing. In blocking, the action must be decisive, with both hands onto the ball as near as possible to the moment when boot meets ball. The hands are close together, which also helps to protect the face. Stealing is rarely used, as a tackle is generally preferred. The player must be very close to his opponent to try a steal and must watch the ball closely. Wherever it is played, from Perth to Port Moresby, a grand final has a special excitement. These are the champions, gladiators who embody the attributes of strength, suppleness, stamina, speed and skill. The 5 S's, which not only make a top player, but are essential to the tens of thousands who play this great game, Australian football. Not every footballer can make it to a grand final. Most have to be content to watch. But those who do experience the thrill of hearing the roar of the crowd from inside the fence can surely never forget it. This is the game.
Right, the start of the 1977 grand final replay. Thompson and Keenan. 19 got first tap to taken by Magro. Magpie's into attack towards half.